What is up, everyone? And I want to tell you today on this bright and sunny, cicada driven day that we have today, I'm going to tell you I have a person here that's very unique to the writer's world. It actually came from a reference of mine. A friend of mine said, "You got to interview her. She wants to interview with you and on your page." And I said to myself, I didn't hesitate at all. I want to hear from this young lady. I want to know all the things that she has going on if I can. But I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna be courteous, and I'm gonna let you all hear from her after this little particular intro. She is a person that has uniquely changed her name. She is a person that has definitely influenced people because I've been asking around the writers community about her, and they said she is wonderful. No negative feedback. So the next voice you're going to hear is going to be from her. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Silence Wordsmith. So my legal name is Sarah Lynn Pagel, and then whenever I was about 15 or so in high school, I came up with the name Silence Wordsmith. How that name came about was I was watching National Treasure with my family, and there was this scene about the Silence Do Good letters, and I was like, Silence, that's a really nice name. I like that. And then I'm an Alanis Morissette fan too, and she had this one song, "Knees of My Bees," and anyway, in the song she uses the word wordsmith, and I was like, that sounds like a name, Silence Wordsmith, and it's also kind of a contradiction, and I thought it would be perfect for me because so many years I have been expected to be silent, and I would kind of lash out my poetry, and that was my way of venting. So I thought it was a good fit for me, and I have been writing since I was about 15. Whenever I was 14, I got this Elephant Love Letter, and it inspired me to start writing. And then 15, we were starting to learn poetry in school, which, by the way, if you're not learning poetry in school, I have some strong words to say about that. Like, I feel like poetry should be taught in school. I mean, poetry cannot really be taught, but I feel like there should be, teachers guiding you into that, though. And anyway, so, I was a freshman in high school, and I, was learning how to write poetry and everything. And I just really liked it, and I had this assistant teacher who was encouraging me to write more, and then I just kept writing, and there were times where I stopped for a while. I was in an abusive relationship for a while, which kind of sucked the energy right out of me, and then after that ended, I returned to writing, and I just feel more alive when I write, and I have all that, like my favorite word is catharsis. And the reason why is because writing is very cathartic for me. It takes all those like better negative feelings out of you, and puts it into something beautiful. And I write because I want people to better understand me.
Okay.
And so I I was, I eventually discovered poetry in the Brew, and that was an open mic event hosted by Christine Hall, and that was over at Portland Brew East in Nashville,
Okay.
and so I discovered that, and then I was like, this is where I belong. I finally, I was looking around for open mic poetry events, and then I found her, and I, you know I just felt at home there. And then before I knew it, Christine Hall had stepped down, and I took over, and it's the same space and same time, just a different name and different host. So
Okay.
my poetry event is called Writer's Wart, hosted by me, so I was Wordsmith, and it's
All
an open
right.
mic poetry event, second Saturday of every month, and it's at Portland Brew East in Nashville. And yeah, that's like the basic gist. If you want to ask me some questions, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, you're fine. But I do have some questions. One pertaining to your name. Do you feel like putting the name Wordsmith adds some pressure onto you? Do you feel that way?
Not really, no, because a wordsmith is a poet, and it's another word for it. And I try my best to, um, use like metaphor, alliteration, rhyming, of course. And I feel that I am a wordsmith. I mean,
Okay.
I kind of, does
Writer. Yep.
sound a little, narcissistic, but I mean, it's just another word for poet, and I am a poet.
Yep. Okay. Well, if someone able to get one of your manuscripts or whatever and reads it, what should they expect when they read any of your poetry?
Well, people ask me this all the time, like, what kind of poetry do you write? And I'm just like, I don't know, just whatever is on my heart and mind. And, I usually write about things that upset me.
Okay.
Or sometimes, like something will inspire me, like watching a movie or something. I've been reciting this one poem lately. It's called Paper Doll, and
Mm,
people have asked me, it's the Paper Doll. It's a ballad, and it's 3 pages long. Um, and Anyway, so it's a fictional story about this girl struggling with an eating disorder. And, people ask me, who is this person? I'm like, it's someone that I just made up. I was watching movies like Black Swan, things like that. It inspired me. And um, I'm my poetry can be dark at times, but it, I'm not really a funny person. Sometimes they can be funny.
no,
I've been trying to write some funny stuff lately, and I'm not a funny person, but I'm trying.
no, no problem, no problem. Speaking of movies, is there a certain movie that you like that was based on poetry?
Oh gosh. Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is Adult World. It has Evan Peters and Emma Roberts in it, which is interesting because I think it's actually how they met, and they were dating and engaged for a while, and they are both on my favorite, well, one of my favorite TV shows, American Horror Story. But anyway, so um, Emma Roberts, she's the niece of Julia Roberts. She plays this
Mhm.
character where she goes to school for creative writing, and she, is doing all this writing, and it's not really getting anywhere. And her parents are trying to encourage her to do something else. And it's called Adult World because they work in an adult toy store. So it's kind of a funny movie too. So, but I do love that movie. Um, no, go ahead.
All right, got another question. Not about a movie, but about music. And do you consider someone who writes music a poet?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, give me a reason why you think that.
Okay, so lately I've gotten really into a fellow poet who, also does rap. Sad Girl, big fan of her. And she, the way that she raps, like, okay, so she has like this music, and so like her lyrics, it's like it's basically poetry, just poetry to music. And I think music is just a different form of poetry. It's just poetry applied to music. So I mean, it's all kind of a gray area.
Okay. All right. So this is another question about your writer. Since you're a writer, and I am too, we all have a place that we keep our unfinished stories, poetry, whatever. Do you have a place that you keep those, like some of your manuscripts, or are you just a person that's just got like you just try to finish everything?
Like, you're asking if I have any half-written poems?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So sometimes I kind of come up with these ideas and I can hardly keep up with it sometimes. Whenever I get really into a poem, I get kind of obsessed with it. I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm always thinking meticulously about the next line. And,
Hmm.
what I do is like I have an idea. I come up with the title first. Then I come up with the first line, and I try to come up with the last line next because the first line and the last line are so important. But uh, you know, I try to finish it all at once, but sometimes I can't really keep up, and I have some half-written poems. And I plan on returning to it. I have a good collection of them now.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you this here. Now, on your bookshelf, if you're like me, I used to have a lot of books. I've condensed it down. So, but is there a couple of books of poetry that you said, you know what, I'll never get rid of these? Just give me one or two books.
Okay, so what's funny is I like to write, but I don't really like to read because reading makes me sleepy. Um, so I have all these books in my room. Like I have like a very small, little, beautiful library of books that my grandmother gave me. We called her Gran, and she really encouraged my writing. She had this library, and one day after hearing a poem of mine, she like kind of like pulled me over to her library, and she was like, "I want you to, take this book and this book." And I had like books like stacked up, to my chin. Like I was just like walking away with all these books. And anyway, so I it was books on like Shakespeare, or your Kipling, books like that. Oh, and Edgar Allan Poe. I was happy to see that. And she also had, okay, this isn't poetry, but she also had a copy of Mein Kampf, which is a book written by Hitler. It wasn't like the original edition, but it was interesting to see that she had a lot of old books. But anyway, um, so she wanted me to read all of that, but I just knew that I would fall asleep. So I have all these books that I don't read, and there is one book that I am determined to read. I finish reading someday. I've only gotten halfway through it, but it's Jane Eyre. But as far as like books on poetry, I have I think it's called 100 Most Famous Poems. If I knew we were going to be talking about this, probably would have brought it out. I'm on my back porch right now. I have never really used this space. So I thought it would be good to use it today. Glad that it's not storming today. So I would have brought that book out, but I I love so many poems. See, I would have to say that like my favorite poem actually isn't in that book. It's a recent poem. It's modern day. It's by Neil Hilburn. It's called OCD, and I would share it with you. Like I actually have it saved to my phone. I could play it, but anyway, you could look that up. It's my favorite poem, probably of all time, which is a very big thing to say. I'm a big fan of it.